sources you've drawn? Do you just make this up? Because you've got some pretty good explanations
Oh.
for how this stuff works.
Oh, thank you. When I was putting magic together, when I was putting the series together, the first thing I did was put together the character, and then I figured out, well, I'm doing a wizard, so I've got to know how magic works, or nobody's going to buy this wizard at all. Especially because I was building him, and I didn't want to make him much of a shamanistic sort of character. I didn't really kind of want to make him that kind of guy. I wanted him to be more like a plumber who just happened to be working with magic instead of PVC. So I went out and I raided the local metaphysics section of I think it was a Borders at the time, and picked up a bunch of books. There was, let's see, there were several that were just like an introduction to magic. One of them was, there was a Fairy Wicca book. There was, I think there was a Golden Path book that I picked up, and just kind of went through and picked up sort of cherry picked all the things that I thought would be cool and have good potential for drama. Like your salad bar, if you're a big Trouble in Little China fan. So I mean, that was where I got it, put it all together, and then I had to have a system that seemed to work, and I applied some Newtonian physics to it, stuff like energy can neither be created nor destroyed, and so on. And from that point, it was like, okay, well then now I've got a basic system, and this is pretty more or less how it has to work. And started working with it from there.
Good job.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah.
The original Merlin, does he sound British?
Does the original Merlin sound British? He probably sounds so unintelligibly British that you wouldn't be able to tell he was speaking English. But no, he's not the guy in Demon Reach. I said that wrong. It's a popular theory, though. It's a real popular theory. So, let's see. Let's go back here.
On your live journal, you have a sort of...
Wait, what was that little condescending quote? Around live journal. Oh my gosh, I feel awful. I'm going to go cry. Okay, let's just do the question.
I talk about live journal. The question is, you had sort of a beginner's writing course on there. Do you think you'd ever add to that again?
At some point, or maybe I'll write a book. But if you want to learn, the stuff that I'm writing there is basically just a cheap rehash of what Debbie Chester taught to me. Her name's Deborah Chester. She's putting out a book on writing craft. She asked me to write an intro for her, and I did. She's like, "Can I pay you to write an intro?" I'm like, "No, you can't pay me to write an intro." So I wrote her a big intro and gave it to her. But if you look up her book, it's going to have a lot of the same stuff. And then her stuff is just a restatement. Is mostly a restatement of things that we got from Jack Bickham and Dwight Swain. And Bickham and Swain's books are also available that will teach you a whole lot about storycraft. I'm one of those writers that doesn't really think that Campbell is terribly useful. The whole Hero with 1,000 Faces thing is useful as an analytical tool, but Campbell was not a storyteller. He was a guy who listened to stories and analyzed them. The metaphor I like to use is that Campbell was somebody who was professionally judging magicians from his seat in the audience, but he has a very different take on what's happening than the guy who's on the stage who knows where all the switches are happening and where the mirrors are. So, I mean, for me personally, I never found Campbell all that useful as far as creating stories went. Although he's great for analysis. But anyway, yeah, check out Bickham and Swain and Deborah Chester's book, and she'll have more, and I'll probably add some more there at some point someday. I need to do something about protagonists and antagonists and how to build them and so on. So, right here, lecture.
That said about Campbell, what do you think about criticism generally, and how constructive do you feel it is to you with your process?
Criticism generally. It depends on the intent of the person who's performing the criticism. Much like, I mean, not entirely, but very strongly. Much like, it depends on the intent of the person's throwing the magic, what the magic does. I've read a lot of criticism that was just mean-spirited bile. And that isn't helpful, and that doesn't do anyone any good at all. I've read some criticism that was meant to be very helpful, and yet was just so far off base that you can't really take it seriously. Largely, I find that the criticism that makes me the most angry is usually the most accurate and most helpful. So if I read a critique that just makes me furious, I'll throw something across the room and pout, and then when I'm calmer, I'll go back and then I'll reread it and pay attention to it. Because if they weren't saying something accurate, it wouldn't bother me. As for myself, I don't really write all that much criticism. I can generally critique works for people and be able to say, this is how you can make it stronger, or here's why this isn't working the way you want it to. But I don't know. Criticism is an odd thing. I like having it though. I like having feedback from an audience. That's why I work with beta readers. So beta readers get the book as I write it chapter by chapter, and then I listen to them and start building based on what they have to think about and say. The questions that are raised. The whole beta reading feedback thing just says, what did you like? What did you dislike? Do you have any questions? And that's all it is. And so I'm able to sort of shape my writing based on their reactions as I'm working. I kind of work to a live audience. It's been really helpful, I think, in creating books. Because my goal is to make the beta readers scream at the end of every chapter, because they have to wait for like 3 or 4 days until the next chapter is ready. So if I can torture them, consistently over months, then I can torture you guys consistently over an evening. Yeah, right here.
Have you said at a con or anything who originally made Bob?
Have I said it at a con or anything who originally made Bob? I thought I said it in a book. It was a guy named Etienne the Enchanter, and he lived in medieval France.
I was wondering where it came from because I was on Goodreads taking quiz questions, and it came up, and I was just like, who the hell is that? Like,
Yeah, I think I said that in Full Moon.
Okay.
So yeah, but he was a big time wizard way back when. Now Harry's got his own baby intellect spirit to deal with. And that's interesting. Back here.
If you could write any character from any other author, who would it be and why?
If I could write any character from any other author, who would it be and why? I don't know. What kind of question is that? I would write an Honor Harrington story from the viewpoint of Nimitz. There, how's that? Okay. And it would all be about how Nimitz is the one actually holding the entire Royal Manicoran Navy together single-handedly, while the humans sort of flail around uselessly with their spaceships.